Good morning, Vijay ji.
Good morning, ma'am.
How are you after a
I'm
long
fine.
time?
Yes, ma'am. It's up to you to call me whenever you want.
After a long time, I was remembering you in the morning and I said 2016 we met for the first time. And today we are
Yes,
meeting
ma'am. Yes,
again.
we did. Yes, yes.
And thank you for the messages that you send every morning and the tips that you share with us from the stock markets. Thank you. I still receive it. Thank you.
Most welcome, ma'am. It's my pleasure and privilege.
Good morning, Ansha, Neha.
Good
Always
morning.
on time. Always on time, both the girls.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning, Jasbir. Good morning. So I think we'll wait for a few minutes and then
Yes, ma'am. We will start. In few minutes, we will start.
see.
Jasbir ma'am, are we good to go? Are we ready to start?
Yes, Vita, start.
Yes, Vita, start. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. In the finance market, it's not whether you're right or wrong that's important, but how much money you make when you're right and how much you lose when you're wrong.
A very good morning to one and all present here. I am Shah.
And I, Neha, I welcome you back to the Induction Lecture Series. Welcome to this remarkable series of knowledgeable lectures featuring our honorable guests who will undoubtedly enrich your wisdom. This unique platform offers you the chance to gain expert insights and be exposed to a multitude of conceptions.
I would now like to invite our source of unwavering determination, wisdom, and our backbone, the principal of HR College, Dr. Pooja Ramchandani.
Thank you, Ansha. Whenever you say I'm your backbone, I say my brand ambassadors are my heartbeat. Warm good morning to all my first year brand ambassadors. Mr. Vijay, who's our chief guest today, and is going to give you a perception about financial markets. Today, I see a lot of students investing in stock markets, reading about it, talking about it, following it. And things like SIPs, mutual funds, equities is not an unknown name to them. Today, we decided that we give you an exposure to a lot of students wanting to make a career but do not make it to a financial market career courses. But it's not necessary that you need to take that course and then only make a career out of it. There are ample of opportunities that are available outside, even if you take a normal BCom or a BAF or a BPI or any other course. It depends on your interest in the subject. It depends on where you want to go. And I think Vijay is the right source today, a stalwart. I must tell him that my two brothers who also invest in stock market are his fans. And the speciality of Vijay, who I met in 2016, is he once becomes your friend, he's always your friend. And you may forget to wish him or message him, but daily one message on the tips in the stock market comes in. He's a regular writer. I know Ansha or Neha will be reading his CV, but he has his own YouTube channel. I watch sometimes, not much, but a stalwart, I can only say my first interaction with him was when I started Young Leaders Club, and he came as an expert. The first thing I asked him, "Are you an HRite?" He said, "No, I'm from Jain." I felt so bad. I said, "You should have been from HR. How can an expert be from some other college?" And he said, "I'll come back someday and join something there." I think those are the sweet memories from 2016 that I have of Vijay. I must thank Dr. Jasbir, our vice principal, who have got his contact for today and is making our first years uh, interact with him. Vijayji, just to tell you, these are our first year undergraduate students who are joining HR either for after their junior college or they are new. Most of them are from out of Maharashtra too. So we decided that let's not allow them to come online, offline for the time being when rains are heavy in Mumbai. So we have started with first exposure to HR College, which is a brand in itself, by making them meet industry experts for first few days and say, if they've chosen a best college, they are meeting the best people. So not coming between you and my brand ambassadors. I only want to thank two girls on duty every day, my dear Ansha and Neha. I mean, morning, you may forget, but these two girls start this Zoom session, interact with students, get them on to switching on their videos and control this entire session and moderate it. So thank you, Neha and Ansha, for being there always. And Dr. Jasbir, Dr. Rani, and welcoming Vijay again on online mode, and over to Ansha for the next set of proceedings.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You always act a source of motivation in every meeting to us. Now, I would formally like to welcome our degree college vice principals, Dr. Naveen Punjabi, Dr. Rani Tyagi, and Dr. Jasbir Sodi, and all the other faculty members present out right here. We are so thrilled to have you here today.
I would now like to invite Dr. Jasbir Kaur Sodi, Vice Principal and Associate Professor of Commerce here at HR College. She has been a faculty member of the Department of Commerce since 2005, and is a former SEBI resource person who has conducted various training programs for corporate and management institutions in the last 7 years. I invite ma'am to please introduce our guest speaker for the day, Mr. Vijay Bhambani.
Thank you, Neha, for your kind introduction. A very good morning to one and all present here. It's a pleasure for me today to introduce our esteemed speaker, who has 3 decades of experience in financial markets, Sri Vijay Bambwani ji. He's a founder and promoter of Bambwani Securities Private Limited, and let me tell you, many or YouTubers use his sticker for their YouTube videos. If you're watching the videos on the YouTube for your stock market trends and the news, you can see they use the BSPL ticker, a renowned proprietary trading firm. Accumulating the wealth of knowledge and expertise, Sir has been actively trading in the market since 1986. In the world of print media, Sir has an impressive track record, having written exclusive market articles for esteemed publications such as Business Standards, DNA Money. With over 2,000 print media articles to their name, their insights have been widely recognized and valued. When it comes to the electronic media, Sir has left an indelible mark by having appeared as an empaneled guest expert on prominent channels like CNBC, TV18, ET Now, and international platforms like BBC, NDTV, Al Jazeera, thereby around 8,000 online presence, 8,000 shows on the online, um, and has an online presence by sharing their expertise with the global audience. As an accomplished author, Sir has penned 2 best-selling books, including A Trader's Guide to the Indian Commodity Markets and The Fast Profits. The former has even received sponsorship from NCDEX and approval as an referral guide by Mumbai University for SYBCom students. Their training experience is equally impressive, having served as a visiting guest faculty at prestigious institutions like BSc Trading Institution, NSC Trading Academy, NCX, Mumbai University, and various private colleges and the broking firms. Their pioneering work in teaching behavioral technical analysis in India showcases their dedication to sharing knowledge. With a 360-degree worldview approach to the financial markets, a unique technique strategy spanning equities, commodities, forex, a deep understanding of demand supply dynamics, geopolitical factors, and behavioral finance impact on markets, Sir always brings a valuable perspective to the table. We are truly honored, Sir, to have you here today. Please join me in welcoming our esteemed speaker, Shri Vijay Bambwani ji. Sir, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Respected Principal Ma'am, um, respected Vice Principal Ma'am, all the esteemed faculty members, Ansha and Neha, thank you so much for giving me the pleasure and privilege of addressing young minds present today from the HR College, very prestigious institution who I always look forward to addressing. Without further a delay, I would walk you through with what to expect in financial markets. I have made a small PPT, a small presentation, and time permitting, I will walk you through the entire presentation. So let me share my screen. I hope my screen is visible to everyone. Please reply.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
All right. All right. So, why do you want to come to financial markets? What should you expect there? And how have they changed? You see, back in the 1980s, when I came to the market, it was a public outcry system, which means people used to go to a trading ring, trade manually. They used to gesture with fingers about prices that at which they wanted to buy and sell. It was a very slow and cumbersome way of trading. The market used to be very small. You had 2 hours of trading between 12 noon to 2 p.m. And In 1992 or 1993, I don't remember which. Please allow me the liberty of forgetting being as old as I am in the market. We suddenly heard an announcement on the public address system where prices used to be verbally announced. The old gentleman announced that that particular day was a landmark day for the Bombay Stock Exchange because the exchange had recorded a turnover of 200 crores on that day. And everybody started throwing their pens and the hand diaries in which they used to note their transactions. They started throwing them in the air. They started cheering. They started clapping because 200 crores per day on that particular day was something that was unimaginable barely a few weeks or few months ago. How have we changed going into 2023? Trading is completely digitized, electronic, right? So you don't have to be present in the Bombay Stock Exchange and stand next to the speakers where the announcements are heard about prices. You could be sitting anywhere in the remotest part of the world and having an internet and mobile app. You could see prices in real time. Whether you were a small investor, trader, or an institution, it's a level playing field. You all get the same rates and same prices. And today, the transaction and the volumes are on expiry days, which is derivative series, they expire once a month. They have crossed 5,50,000 crores. Remember, people were cheering for 200 crores. This is now a 5,50,000 crore per day transaction market. This requires manpower. It requires skilled people, bright and innovative children like you who bring with them fresh blood and can take this market to 25 lakh crores per day transacted volumes. So there's ample room for everybody, but it's going to be very competitive. The best minds will win. So pay complete attention to what you're being taught in this wonderful college. Pay complete attention to what your professors are teaching you. Take up a career, be serious about it, and believe me, there is a pot of gold at the end of this rainbow. What these markets are not. Everybody tells you what these markets are. Let me tell you what they are not. They are not easy. If you think that you can basically jump into any stock, let me share my trading terminal which is on. You can see prices flickering on your screen. Unless you know what these numbers mean, unless you know what each and every change in the figure means, I'll bring up a snapshot window for you. This is a small window which contains 2 dozen hidden signals which a trader must decipher before even entering a buy or a sell, before even considering a buy or a sell. Forget about entering an order. So, this is not easy, which means you have to be very skilled, you have to be hardworking. You cannot take it for granted. If you have beginner's luck and you made a little bit of money, you can't say you found a hidden system. This market is not static. Static in the sense one strategy will not work all the time. Remember, there are millions of participants in the market. Each one is looking for a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. People much more smarter, wealthier, faster, more experienced, and having a better computer and a faster internet connection than you will have an advantage over you. So you'll have to improvise all the time. There is no such thing as 9 to 5 in this market. The commodity markets in this country open at 9 a.m. sharp and end at midnight. So people like me are trading 15 hours a day. Don't expect this to be a part-time or a semi-commitment job. This is not for everyone. Only the most dedicated people will survive. The other thing is this market is not a one size fits all. In the days of cost cutting, which are going on nowadays, People are not hiring too many people. As a matter of fact, many brokerage firms are firing people. So there is an assumption that an analyst who is handling equities can be delegated by raising his or her pay by 30% and telling him you also monitor commodities and you also monitor currencies. That's a fallacy. Both are not the same. The reason being, currency markets trade in 4 decimal points. So the USD INR is 82.7275, 4 decimal points. Commodity markets are trading 15 hours a day. If you don't know which part of the day will be more volatile, then you don't know what you're doing. There is a difference between commodities and equities. In equities, the paid up capital of a company is static. Once you change your paid up capital by issuing right shares or bonus shares for the next 12 months, as per security law, you can't fool around with your paid up capital. So, supply of shares is limited. Demand can be whipped up by sending people on television channels and saying buy. So, prices can zoom in equities. But in commodities, all you need to do is dig into the earth and commodities produce more. The earth produces more. So, both supply and demand are dynamic. So if prices go up, people start producing more and bring down prices, which is why one size will not fit all. In equity markets, people want to double their money. In currency markets, forget about the USD INR, which is the United States dollar versus the rupee doubling. We will all commit suicide if the rupee goes from 82 per dollar to 160 per dollar, right? There would be political and financial chaos. As a matter of fact, if you're working in the treasury of a bank in the forex department, if you mistime your trade and get the second or third decimal wrong, you will be fired instantly. So your skill as an equity trader will fail as a currency trader, will fail as a commodity trader, will fail as a bond market trader. So don't expect that one size will fit all. The other thing is keeping the big picture in mind. The markets react to everything. They react to the economy, and it is a fallacy that you can pigeonhole or compartmentalize your minds and the market. So I come across a lot of students who ask me, sir, how do I prepare for a job interview? I am very passionate about technology because I'm using mobile phones. I'm very good at programming. I've learned Java, I've learned Python, I've learned C++, etc. So I want to specialize as a information technology or IT analyst. How can I prepare for an interview as an IT analyst? I put myself in the picture in the place of the boss, and I think to myself, I would basically fire this guy after the very first sentence. If he tells me that he only focuses on IT shares and analyzes their balance sheets without knowing the currency market, because your payments as a technology software exporter will come in US dollars. If you don't know how to hedge your US dollar, your export price, which at the time of entering into the transaction, which you thought was profitable, might become loss making because the currency price would have changed by the time your payment is remitted, right? So if you tell me that I will work as a commodity market analyst, I don't care about what equity is meaning, what bond prices are indicating, or what currency prices are indicating. You're moving with blinkers. In Mumbai Bhasha, it is called Ghode ka chashma. You're looking at tunnel vision. It's not going to work. Which is why we adopt a 360-degree worldview of the market. In oil markets, particularly, you need to also understand the geopolitics of the Arab world or the Middle East and North African world. One guy sneezes and oil markets can catch a cold. So if you miss out that sneeze, you wouldn't know what hit you. So everything is your problem. Geopolitics are your problem. Terror strikes are your problem. Financial speculation is your problem. Supply demand dynamics are your problem. Currencies are your problem. Now, should you be a specialist or should you be a generalist? This is very important from the point of view of employability. Will you get a job after learning what you are learning as a career course, and what should you seek to be? You've all heard of Chat GPT. It's taken the world by storm. Google is coming out with its own version called the Bard. Microsoft is also working on advanced artificial intelligence services. So you can ask Chat GPT a question on anything. I read a few articles where Chat GPT has cleared a bar exam, the legal attorney's exam, in a couple of cities in America. It has also cleared the first step in medical exams in US medical schools, which is an equivalent of MBBS. So ChatGPT does not say I will restrict myself to writing scripts for movies, which is why Hollywood is on strike now because ChatGPT is writing movie scripts. It will also replace equity market or financial market analysts unless the analyst is very, very skilled. So it's going to happen. In every field, there is a fear that humans will be replaced by artificial intelligence. So you need to be two steps ahead. That is your only protection, which is why you must be a jack of all trades, and that will have a plus point for you. You must try to understand all aspects of the economy and the market, which will ensure your longevity, your employability, and your financial viability. Now, what constitutes the economy? What makes up the economy? Every single thing from the roadside stall which is selling cutting chai to a factory that is producing four-wheelers, two-wheelers, or even aircraft. What is the GDP? The GDP is all the transactions taking place in the economy at all times. Why is it important? Because the government will levy taxes, people will earn profits, it will generate employments, and that employment would mean people can spend money and help production of goods and services. So how do the wheels of the economy move? Finance is the lifeblood of trade and commerce, which is why we are discussing financial markets. One of the most understated, least understood, least factored and discussed issues in the economics and financial markets is inflation. Unfortunately, it's not even taught much in business schools, and that is a fallacy. Its impact reverberates to the bond markets, and bond markets are the fountain of money supply for all other asset classes. You have to understand as students, I understand and appreciate the fact that many of you trade in financial markets, or if not trade, at least invest in financial markets. But the fallacy in India and many other underdeveloped or developing countries like India is that people have a tunnel vision about financial markets. So when two people meet and they ask, what does the market look like to you? Market kya lagta hai? It's invariably the BSE Sensex or the Nifty 50. If you are a true professional, by the time you pass out of it, hello, can I request you to mute your mics, please? So so when you pass out of HR college as a graduate, you should have learned enough. When somebody asks you what does the market look like, you should ask the question which market, because there are four. The largest being forex market, the second largest being at any given point in time bonds or commodities, depending on which financial announcement, economic announcement is being announced in the global financial stage. And the smallest market in the world is equity markets. Since we do not know the other three asset classes well enough, we presume that equities are the only game in town, and we focus on teaching only equities. This is changing because FIIs are here. They are recruiting students in their mutual funds, family offices, front offices, back offices, and they are learning that not having a knowledge about the bond market is costing them jobs, promotions, pay hikes, and mobility in the organization. So when bond prices are going down, it means bond yields are going up. And when bond yields are going up, it means interest rates are likely to go higher. Cost of money is likely to go up. And when money becomes more expensive, everything which you buy with money also becomes more expensive, right? Currency markets, like I told you, if you're an exporter or an importer, the movement of currency will kill you. Commodities are the raw material which corporate India used to produce final goods and services. So these are extremely important factors that you need to take into account before reading the balance sheet of a company. Now, why is inflation important? Because you need to see which prices will move where. Instead of looking at the market in isolation of equity, commodity, currency, or bonds, look at the market as a machine. And in a machine, there are cogged wheels, wheels with gears. So when one wheel moves, it moves the other wheels, right? So if one wheel breaks down, the entire machine breaks down. And inflation is the biggest wheel. That's unfortunately not being factored in much of our financial studies, but that's changing very, very rapidly. Very rapidly. The Austrian School of Economics, it basically says that inflation is a taxation by backdoor means. I'll explain to you why. When inflation goes up, nowadays you're basically seeing the prices of tomatoes being the hot topic of discussion. What happens when prices of vegetables go up across the board and your salary does not go up? Your savings go down. When your kitchen bill is going up, your savings go down because food is not something that you can compromise on. You cannot say instead of 3 meals a day, I'm going to have two. And if prices go up even further, I'll cut down to 1 meal a day and life will go on. It doesn't quite work that way, right? So when inflation goes up, the savings capability of an average household goes down, and therefore it is an indirect way of taxing people. And nowadays, with GST being the norm, or value added tax, or expenditure tax, call it by different names in different countries, when prices go up of any commodity, the GST collected by the government also goes up. So, Austrian School of Economists lay a particularly high degree of reliance on inflation. As a matter of fact, if you read Security Analysis by Warren Buffett and his guru, the book is one of the most popular books for equity valuations in MBA and wealth management, etc. It's available as a low cost edition by Tata McGraw Hill in India. If memory serves me right, it is 599 unless the price has been hiked up of late. Basically, Warren Buffett says if inflation is going up, we have to adjust that in the PE multiple. PE multiple is price to earnings multiple by the inflation kicker. Otherwise, an average rupee cannot buy the same earning that the company is going to declare on increased price of raw material that it will buy. So the old time thinking that PE multiple should be taken in an absolute number is gone. You have to adjust it by the inflation kicker. Inflation numbers are also not very easy to compute. The reason being that inflation may not be declared as it is. There are implications. A very high inflation obviously makes people unhappy. So inflation figures could be watered down. Now, I, since 2021, have been commenting on social media that COVID would result in extremely high inflation, particularly food price inflation. And this is not rocket science. I source my data, A, from experience, as I have been writing on commodities in various print media and electronic media houses. And one of the best sources of inflation on food is Food and Agricultural Organization, which is a subsidiary of the United Nations organization. They said inflation can, in some parts of the world, and I'm talking of food inflation, can go as high as 30% per annum, especially in the impoverished countries. And here you are, global central bankers, right since 2021, were saying that inflation is transitory, including the US, the British, the European Central Bank, etc. All of them were saying inflation is transitory. And I had been saying inflation will be higher for longer. Those of you who've subscribed to Money Control or something can go to my Money Control page where I've written these articles, and I've written A, inflation will be higher for longer, and to curb inflation, central bankers will raise rates for longer, and in both cases, their efforts will fail. Neither will inflation come down, nor will inflation be controlled by interest rates, right? So, computing inflation in 2009 or 2010, we saw that the inflation numbers, as announced by the administration then, were not really reflecting a picture that was prevalent at the street level. So, a couple of us who were writers for that newspaper got together and uh, started computing inflation in a different manner. I took 16 vegetables, 6 fruits, milk, meat, eggs, and grains, and started sourcing prices from the same location. So it's not that you can take prices in week one from the Nana Chowk market, and week two from Churchgate market, and week three from the Andheri market. No, data point should not vary. So we took it from the same data source, and we found that inflation was actually in the mid double digits rather than 6%, as used to be announced then in 2009-10. And we also found that when more than 75% of the items that we were checking, if they started rising in price for 4 to 5 weeks in a row, the rupee used to weaken against the dollar. So if you were a trader in the currency market, you could make money by simply collecting vegetable prices from the same source. I used to put these prices up every week on my Facebook page. I don't do that anymore, right? And reporting headline inflation. Headline inflation is the number that is concerned with the items that the government uses for reporting inflation, right? So headline inflation and street level inflation can be two different things. It is up to you to decide what is more rational. As a trader, I take street level inflation. Headline indices, which means the BSE Sensex and the Nifty 50, are they good economic gauges? Can stock market indices be really relied upon to reflect a realistic picture of the economy? Now, many of you would say that yes, it is a good enough picture of the economy because the industry is doing well. So I ask people, why were stock indices rising like there would be no tomorrow from the end of April 2020 till October 2021? The markets were going up one sided. Everything was shut. Everything was shut during COVID. Factories were shut, shops were shut, food shops were allowed to be open for a few hours in the morning and few hours in the evening. Medical stores were allowed to be open all day long. But prices of companies which had nothing to do with food or medicines were rising on the stock market. Why? Because central bankers were printing unbacked currency in developed countries and pumping it into the economy, and that money was coming to the stock market. So stock markets will reflect the health of the stocks that comprise these indexes. So BSE 30 has 30 stocks, NSE 50 has 50 stocks. You're basically coming to know what is happening to these 50 stocks. So can that be a real barometer or a yardstick of the economy that's happening at the street level? There are many people like Shankar Sharma who say that the stock market indices are concerning people who stay between Kaf Parade to Worli Seaface, which is South Mumbai. I would go a step further and say that the real barometer of the economy, instead of looking at it from the stock market point of view, would be to look at the currency peg. The reason is that less than 6% of Indians invest in the stock market directly, but 100% of Indians, men, women, and children, are dealing in currency. You would find some money in everybody's pocket, other than infants, of course. So, if the currency is weakening, everybody is getting poorer. If the currency is strengthening, everybody is getting richer. Which is why you need to look beyond stock markets and take a holistic picture of the currency market. So, can the rupee be a better gauge of the economic outlook? I think so. Yes. Now I invert the chart. Instead of talking of the USD INR, where the USD is the base currency and the INR is the secondary currency, I'm taking the INR versus the USD. Now the rupee is the base currency and the USD is the secondary currency. What has happened to the INR USD? What you will see since independence, a long period average or LPA. If you take an LPA, the rupee depreciates between 3.5 to 5% against the US dollars average per annum. There are times when it does not depreciate or even appreciate in a particular year, but it makes up for the lost time by moving much more faster in the coming years. So if you are to look at the currency peg has come down sharply from 2008 to 2023. Of course, if you look at the chart even before that, it'll be even more, the slope will be even larger. This is from Trading View. Since you guys trade, you would all know about Trading View. Now, if the currency is weakening, you should start feeling pessimistic about the equity indices. But look at the Nifty in that period. The Nifty has only gone up. So since the rupee is weakening, you're able to buy less and less with every rupee that you own. You should feel that the stock market will come down, but the market is actually going up. Why? Now, this is where equity security analysis book comes in. Remember the inflation kicker. If inflation is rising at 6, 7, 8, or 10%, your PE multiple must also rise by that much every year so that the person who is investing in the stock can make up for the lost amount of purchasing power parity of the rupee by making bigger profits from the stock so that he can run his house. This is unfortunately an aspect not covered in textbooks. But when you take a job, you will realize that you need to basically incorporate this knowledge. Cost of funds. Now, I told you earlier, the biggest markets in the world are forex markets, then followed by bonds and commodities, which are vying for second place, depending on which announcement is being let out in the system, and equities being the smallest. But in India, we tend to think equities are the only game in town. And which market do you think should dominate which? In my humble opinion, the forex market should be the highest. Bonds and commodities should be second and third, or third and second, respectively, and equities should get the smallest weightage. Unfortunately, in India, commodity markets have not really picked up well because trading hours are long. There are misconceptions about commodities that if you buy a contract of say aluminium, at the end of the derivative cycle, if you don't square it up, and now metals are delivery settled, if you don't square it up, and there will be a truck honking below your balcony asking you, "Saab, आपका 5 truck aluminium आ गया है delivery, किधर रखना है?" It doesn't really happen, but lack of knowledge is basically responsible for slower adoption of commodity markets in this country. Forex markets have picked up extremely well. 20 lakh to 25 lakh lots are traded in the USD INR every day. Bond markets are picking up. The Reserve Bank of India has launched on 1st October 2021 a portal called RBI Retail Direct. So when you go to Retail Direct portal, you can buy bonds directly from the RBI without paying any brokerage because you're buying and selling to and from banks directly. And you will realize that you can sell 5,000 crore worth of bonds in 5 seconds without upsetting the price. That's not something you can manage in equities, right? And what happens to you as a stock market trader when the government is borrowing money directly from the public via the retail direct scheme? You will realize that banking in India changed forever from 1st October 2021. If you deposit money in a bank, fixed deposit, your money is insured to the extent of 5 lakh rupees. So if the bank goes bankrupt, the RBI will protect you to the extent of 5 lakh rupees. But when you're buying a government sovereign guaranteed bond, you're lending money to the President of India. So if you put 5,000 crores in bonds, the entire 5,000 crore is guaranteed by the government. So there is greater protection, number one. Number two, banks are now giving you 6% odd in fixed deposits. But bonds are yielding 7.25, 7.10, 7.15. Prices fluctuate, right? So the yields fluctuate. So number one, you're getting a higher yield. Number two, the president is guaranteeing your money, so you sleep well. Against banks, which are guaranteeing only 5 lakh rupees. So now banks will have to fight to maintain their share of money from the depositors, which is why you saw YouTube videos which went viral at Canara Bank managers in the suburban Mumbai were going out in the streets with public address, microphone, and battery operated mic and speakers, yelling at the top of their voices that Canara Bank is offering 0.25% higher interest rate than other banks. Please come and deposit money there. In the history of banking, at least since the time I've been in the market since 1986, I've never seen a bank manager go out there and address people on microphones in the streets. I've never seen banks put up beach umbrellas at Worli Seaface and Marine Drive with pamphlets of fixed deposits being put up on Saturday and Sunday, inviting people to put deposits there. Why? Because the RBI retail direct scheme became such a hit that they collected almost 60,000 crores in the shortest possible time after the website opened for business. So can you really ignore the bond market if you want to be an equity analyst, particularly a banking analyst? Think again. If bond yields go up, which means bond prices go down, there is a mark to market loss on the portfolio holdings of bank. Banks are the biggest investors in the bond market. So bank nifty falls. Now you're scratching your head and wondering why the bank nifty fell. Hey, the reason is bond prices fell. There was a mark to market loss. So only noticing bond markets would have told you that. Textbooks tell us that low interest rates are good. Low interest rates boost spending. They put more money into the hands of people who could not have otherwise afforded to buy things, and therefore they can go to malls and splurge money, buy things on credit cards and pay lower interest and EMIs, and therefore the economy rises. At the risk of inviting sheer dislike by all and sundry, I would tell you that everybody is wrong. This is a wrong notion. It is only taking into account the viewpoint of the borrower. By now, you would know in double entry system of account keeping, every debit must match a credit, otherwise the balance sheet will not tally. So when you say lower interest rates are good for the borrower, I have been screaming on social media, inviting a lot of negative feedback from people, which to me doesn't make a difference, frankly. I've been asking for higher interest rates, and people are telling me I'm antisocial. I want the stock market to fall. Even if interest rates have gone up, I've proved to you that stock markets are going up. Why? Why am I wanting interest rates to go up? Because for every borrower who wants a lower rate of interest, there is a check writer who's putting fixed deposits in banks so that the banks can lend money. There is a guy who's buying a bond so that the government can get money to make infrastructure projects. You give him low interest rates, he'll stop writing checks. Liquidity in the banking system will dry up. People who write textbooks are possibly not factoring in the fact that capitalism wants profits. So if I am a check writer, I belong to the community of check writers. I'm a saver. So I obviously have a vested interest in wanting higher interest rates. And if I don't get higher interest rates, I don't write out checks. It's that simple. When these guys stop writing checks, you can't get money. And when there's no money in the system freezes. So there has to be a balance. What is the balance? You take the savings rate. The risk-free rate is the RBI bond price, bond yield rather. Today it is 7.17 as I speak to you, right? Modern technology has made it very easy for us to check what is happening where. Indian 10-year benchmark bond yield, as you can see, is 7.155%, three decimals. So I'm getting 7.155% if I was to buy the RBI bond. Remember, there is no brokerage and execution cost. So I will get exactly 7.155% yield. So if at all, the bond yield is 7.155. If inflation is lower than 7.155, I don't mind writing out a check. If inflation is higher than 7.155, there is something called real effective interest rates. The real effective interest rate will be negative because I'm getting interest of 7.155. If hypothetically inflation is 8%, I'll be eating capital. So I don't want to buy this bond. I'll rather keep the money in a saving or a current account or keep it under my pillow, but I will not buy this bond. Real effective interest rates have been negative for multiple years now, worldwide. Japan is following negative interest rates. So the borrower actually gets money to borrow money from the bank. Denmark started this trend in Europe by imposing 0.25% negative interest rates on depositors. So if you put 100 euros in a Danish bank for a year, at the end of the year, you did not receive interest, you got 99.75 euros. So the savers were penalized. And they're very pissed people now. They're very, very pissed off. And they're not writing checks. The textbook is not telling you that. Now they want and they are getting higher interest rates because nobody has any option right now but to give them higher interest rates. So when a Poonawalla corporation, that is the Serum Institute, Cyrus Poonawala's family, which has taken over NBFC, is giving you 11.9 and 12% interest rates on the fixed deposits that they are offering to the public. You know why? Because the check writers are not giving them money less than that benchmark interest rate. So remember one thing, the needles and gauges in the markets are not moved by retail traders, but by big money check writers. The market is controlled by big money check writers, not by retail guys. Redditors tried in 2021 to move the markets. They got a brief amount of success, but hedge funds and mutual funds beat them black and blue, and they're not coming back into the market for a long, long time. Where are interest rates headed? I gave you a brief view, my point of view, of course, and you could always disagree with me. Feel free, it's a democratic country. Historically, interest rates have been used by central bankers to varying degrees of success. During 1973, in the Arab oil embargo, Arab oil embargo started in 1973. The Jews have a period of mourning, just like Hindus have Shraddh. It's called the Yom Kippur, when you mourn the dead. So in Palestine, war came to a standstill during Yom Kippur because the Lebanese people who were fighting against Israel then thought the Israelis would not attack during Yom Kippur because they would be mourning. It's a religious period. The Israeli Air Force knew that the Lebanese would make the mistake of assuming there would be no war, and they bombed Beirut. The Arabs went to America and they said, look, the Jews are your friends. We tell you to tell them to stop bombing us. The Americans said, look, they are a different country. We have no jurisdiction. We can tell them to stop, but we can't guarantee they will stop. The Arabs said, okay, we can't fight you. What we can do, we stop selling you oil. So oil went from $2.50 a barrel to $23 a barrel. Inflation spiked higher. The US Federal Reserve Chairman of that time, Paul Walker, raised interest rates 19 times to 18% per annum. It's a rate America has never seen since then and never before. It didn't help inflation, which is my point of view that central bankers trying to tame inflation by interest rates seldom works completely. 9/11 in 2001, on 11th September, two aircraft, hijacked aircraft, collided into World Trade Center towers and brought them down. The American central bank started cutting interest rates aggressively so that markets would rise. Stock markets went up. They tasted success. In 2008 global financial crisis, they did the same thing. If you've seen the movie The Big Short, John Paulson, who is actually being played by Chris Evans, bet that interest rate cuts will not help and the market will fall ultimately. And he made billions of dollars. In COVID, the government did two things. The US, I mean, talking of US government, they printed money. How much? 20% of all dollar notes, I'm talking of pure cash, 20% of all dollar notes that are in circulation in the world today, and the dollar is about 150 years old, a 150-year-old currency, 20% of which is printed after March 2020. So, A, the US government printed unbacked currency, not backed by gold. Number two, they cut interest rates. Please convince me inflation is coming down. Please convince me your canteen bill is going to go down. And please convince me if inflation is going to rise higher, check writers are like me are going to write out checks at 6% FD rates of interest. We won't. We would rather buy RBI bonds guaranteed by the president. And we would tell the RBI, if you want more money from me, give me 7.5. And guess what? I think it will be there. Right? So, what is likely to happen now? There will be a class struggle where big check writers will demand and get higher interest rates. What will happen? People who are living on borrowed money and spending money which they don't own will have a tough time. That's bound to happen. Be prepared for it. Now, a bit about commodities. Now, commodities are raw materials for corporates and must be studied in detail. Inflation is nothing but high commodity prices. As an organized exchange traded platform, commodity markets were commissioned in 2003. Turnover is yet to pick up, but things are changing now. You have to understand that unlike equity markets, mutual funds, FIIs, and NRIs are not allowed to trade in commodities. SEBI is now permitting them to come. So this market will balloon. It'll explode. Those of you who are willing to wait instead of trying to get your meter started by taking the first job that comes your way after you graduate in your placement service, if you target the commodity market and wait for a couple of years, your salary will leapfrog over the guy who's into equities. The highest salary will come from getting a job in the treasury where you're trading forex. The second highest will come from treasury on the bond trading desk, right? Equity trading desk will give you less and less. There's sheer competition. Artificial intelligence is already here. 4 years ago, I saw the results of Bank of Baroda being analyzed on marketwatch.com, which is a US based website. Within 23 seconds of Bank of Baroda announcing their numbers on air on CNBC, and before the CNBC analyst Lata Venkatesh could even analyze it in great detail, marketwatch.com had a buy or a sell recommendation on Bank of Baroda. Now, being a trained eye, because I write for print media and appear on television, I know what you must check. Who's written the byline? Who's written the headline? I was shocked. The analysis of Bank of Baroda was done by Robo Eddy. It was a robot. It was a web bot. 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Fukushima Insurance Company in Japan, listed on the Tokyo Stock Exchange, has only one human being, that is the chairman of the company, because he is supposed to sign the annual results of the company as per the listing agreement on Tokyo Stock Exchange. The only human interaction you have as a policy holder of the Fukushima company is when you submit your form, and it's a general company, it takes fire insurance, life insurance, medical insurance, property insurance, industrial insurance. So, based on where you put a tick mark, which type of claim you're making, the human being segregates that form into a separate tray. That's it. Everything else is robotized. In overseas companies, foreign brokerages, you basically use an XML form to put in your order of buy and sell and email it to a particular mail ID. The robot enters your transaction. So the dealers who used to enter transactions on their keyboards in brokerage firms, their jobs are already eaten up. So be particularly careful. By the time you graduate out of college, the world would have been a radically different place. The only way you can ensure survival is to think smart, think fast, and think ahead of the crowd. That's how you'll stay ahead of the crowd. Now, does what appear in the market actually happen in financial markets? The answer is no. Now, you'd want to ask why. The reason is very simple. If you study behavioral finance, the first tenet of behavioral finance is if there is a financial gain made possible by misleading people, then people will mislead people. So, is it possible that on in the public domain, on social media, on WhatsApp, on YouTube, on Telegram, on television, in newspapers, misinformation come in? The intelligence communities, whether it is CIA, whether it is the RAW, whether it is the Intelligence Bureau in India, call it dipping, disinformation protocol, dipping. Is disinformation rampant in financial markets? The answer is yes. Why? Because if I'm stuck with some stocks and I'm a big player, I want to get out of it. I would appoint people to go on every social media and mainstream media platform and say buy, 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 and buy. And what do I do when people go out there and buy? I sell. So WYSIWYG does not prevail in financial markets. What does WYSIWYG stand for? Those of you who've learned computer programming would know WYSIWYG stands for what you see is what you get. In financial markets, you have to be alert. What you see is not what you get. There are always people waiting to give you tips, always people waiting to tell you what to do so that they can do exactly the opposite because that is where they will make their money. So, how will you counter it? By sheer knowledge. I'm not imposing any particular faith, religion, culture, or school of thought. I'm just quoting every civilization, every culture, every religion has these sayings. It's just that I know the Hindu saying, so I'm quoting the Hindu saying. In Sanskrit, it says "Murkha pujyate parivara." Even a fool is worshipped in his house because he could be the head of the family, maybe. Swadeshya pujyate raja. A king is worshipped in his kingdom, maybe out of sheer fear. Parantu vidvana sarvatra pujate. Only a scholar is worshipped in all four directions voluntarily. Why? Because he's smart, he's knowledgeable. And how do financial markets worship you or acknowledge your intelligence? They give you profits, they give you increments, they give you promotions, they give you bonuses. They give you self employment and maybe you start your own company, right? So, in financial markets, you are not competing against your competitor as to who runs faster in a marathon, who boxes harder, who swims faster, who lifts more weights. It's all about the mind. We people in financial markets are brain warriors. We get paid to think better, think further, think smarter, and think faster, and think bigger. So you look beyond WYSIWYG. What is apparent is probably not true. I would go to the extent of saying invariably not true, right? So you hear everybody, but you do what your intelligence says. When does a school of economics or a student of economics in the financial market feel justifies that he has made it and can retire comfortably? So when I finished my graduation and I went for a post graduation in finance, our finance professor asked everyone in the class as to what our aim and object in life was before he went in for the first lecture. So me being me, I said, "Sir, I intend to retire by the age of 40. Not that I'll stop commercial activity. I will still continue to run my business, but I would rather run it sitting under a beach umbrella on a beach and having a pina colada and basically having a telephone. In those days, I'm talking of early 1980s, cell phones were unknown. Like maybe call up my office from a phone twice a day and conducting business from there." So my professor said, "I mean, that's a very nice thought. It's a very sexy thought. But do you have a game plan or is it just a pipe dream?" I said, "Sir, it's at this point in time, it's a pipe dream. I have no way of knowing how to do it." So he taught me something, and I'm going to teach you. And banish the thought that interest rates don't matter. Banish the thought that lower interest rates are good for the economy. They are good for the borrower, not good for the saver. And there are two sides of the coin. If there is a head, there is a tails. So what benefits one is invariably robbing the other. So he told me, and mind you, back in the day, public sector banks offered 15 and 16% interest on fixed deposits. If you ask your professors, they'll vouch for it. Back in the day, FDs were giving 15, 16%. So he told me, whatever is your current household expense per month, factor it in for 25 years forward. Keep that amount of liquid money. I'm not counting your house, your car, or your jewelry or anything. I want liquid assets to be kept in a fixed deposit 25 years going forward. And when you get 17 or 16 or 15% interest on it, you may not be able to utilize the entire money as household expense. You will still have little bit left, but remember, inflation over the next 25 years will mean that your expense will keep rising. So this extra money that you earn from 15% interest will take care of you. Only when you have enough money to pay for 25 years of forward household expenses at today's level in cash, should you dare, he used the word dare to dream. Don't come to my class and say you'll retire by 40. Show me 25 years of forward expense now in cash, in liquid. I learned a very humbling lesson. Now let me ask you, the second generation. My son is 28, my daughter is 21. So I keep telling them, and my wife keeps cautioning me, don't scare students. So pardon me if you think I'm scaring you, but I'm giving you a dose of reality. You are going to earn 6% interest. At 15 and 16% interest, my finance and a financial planning professor told me I need 25 forward years of expense in cash. At 6%, how much do you need? 60, 65, 70 years of forward planning expenses. If you think cost of money or interest rates don't matter, think about it. Think about what will happen. If you have to save money at 6% per annum and dream of retiring, you can never retire at this interest rate. And these interest rates are here to stay. So I went to Singapore to meet Jim Rogers. He's the world's largest commodity trader, and I am honored to count him as a contact. I won't say friend because we don't dine at each other's houses or whatnot. And Jim basically in 2012 told me you should go around and go to Malaysia, learn about palm oil business, and he knew I trade palm oil, right? I found the cabbies, an average Singaporean taxi driver, to be extremely knowledgeable. So they were telling me how much the Indian rupee is versus the Singapore dollar and what the Indian economy is doing and whatnot. I asked one of these taxi drivers, said, look, do you have a citizens band radio or something which you listen to? You're so informed about the entire world. And all of you guys are senior citizens. He said, look, we've all worked in multinational companies. We are retired. The retirement age is gone. The government doesn't give you a retirement old people's home here as long as you can walk. They make us walk 100 meters. As long as we can walk, they tell you, look, drive cabs. Don't talk about sitting at home and earning a pension. We don't support you. We're saying you people in India have a sexy dream about retiring and living off on your savings. In Singapore, it doesn't exist. We work till we can walk. So I tell my daughter and my son, your generation will live in low interest rates and low savings rates. If you blow up all your money, and if you don't have enough money, you will be working like an average Singaporean till your 80s and 70s and 90s and God knows what. You have not made it till you don't save enough money to run your house 25 years from now on your fixed income in interest or your investments. Then you can tell me that you've done it. Then you can dream of retiring. I think I've taken enough time and introduced you to the hurly-burly world of finance. Let's not end on a negative note. There is a lot of money to be made for the intelligent, for the fast thinking, for the forward thinking guy or girl. And it's a huge market. Remember, 5 lakh crore turnover per day. That's big, right? And the person who will make it is somebody who does not slack off, who does not bunk lectures, who does not worry about Katappa ne Bahubali ko kyun mara, because these are distractions. Please don't get distracted. Take life seriously. If you don't take life seriously, your career will not take you seriously. It's as simple as that. If you respect your knowledge and your career, your knowledge and career will respect you back and give you success. You will not have to work in your 70s. You will retire much more earlier. With that, I end my talk. I wish you all the best, a very, very bright future. And I feel so nice to talk to the younger generation because you have so much promise in you and you have a lot of energy and you are much more focused and so much more knowledgeable about technology to tackle the future than my generation is. All the best and wish you all the success.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. That was very informative lecture. So I just want to ask if you would be open to a few questions.
Sure, sure.
Yes, sir. So we have a few questions in the chat box. Uh, I'll just read it. What's the advantage of negative interest?
Negative interest rates are basically a government's way of saying that we don't want you to save. We want you to go out there and do business with your money. Why did Denmark cut interest rates to negative, minus quarter percent? Because bankers, scheduled commercial bankers, were investing all their surplus money with the central bank in Denmark rather than lending money because they were not sure whether they would lend money to borrowers and the borrowers would repay them back. And business was freezing. Remember, I told you finance is the lifeblood of commerce. So businessmen were not getting money because the bankers were giving money to the central bank rather than lending money. So the central bank said, okay, we are cutting interest rates to negative. Don't give us money. Give it to people who want money for business. This tells you there is fear. Negative interest rates only talk about fear.
Yes, sir. We have another question here. What outlook before or while trading do the professionals have that the retail traders lack?
Professional traders have a game plan before they enter a trade. They know how much loss they are willing to take before they get out, and they get out. They don't hope. Behavioral finance tells you that we make or break our trading career due to our emotions, not due to weaknesses in our systems or weaknesses in our reading of the market or whatnot. It is our mind that makes or breaks us. And secondly, a professional trader is extremely adaptable to the change in prices. If the market prices change, he's willing to take action immediately and stay on the sidelines and come back when the market is favorable again.
Okay, so we have another question by Chirag Gangwani. He says, hello, sir. I've been trading index fund derivatives in the past 2 years and now preparing for CFA. How should I proceed to get a job as a trader in a big institution?
Well, Chirag, you already have exposure to index fund derivatives, right? So I think you would have known by now as to what trading involves, at least in the indices. Now, if you move further, I think you should, like I said, try to be a jack of all trades rather than be a specialist, be a generalist. So uh, nowadays, bosses are looking for people who could fit into different organizations. So there are 72 sectors in the market, big and small. If you take a Capital Market magazine, you'll see the number of sectors. Earlier, there used to be a sector specialist for each sector. So brokerage firms used to have 75 analysts. Nowadays, people want to save money. So they employ 10, 15, 12, 13 analysts and they tell them each one of you handle 10, 12 sectors, right? And now commodities and currencies and bonds also. So if you want to improve your employability and chances of getting a good job, I think you should get a broad spectrum of knowledge on various asset classes. Don't just focus on one aspect of the market.
Okay, sir. We have the last question here today. What are some accurate sources to learn these things well? These things meaning trading in the market.
Can you come again? I couldn't hear you well.
Yes, sir. What are the accurate sources to learn these things well?
Look, trading is a very dynamic process. Um Today's generation is very well aware of how to download books from, right? So I don't need to specify what and where. Those books can only give you a classroom knowledge or textual knowledge of what was prevalent then when the book was written, number one. Number two, it is the viewpoint of the author who has written the book at that point in time, which may or may not have changed since the time the book was written. I know I've been a two-time author myself, and I've evolved since my first book was written in 2009. And I've evolved from the second book also, which was written in 2019. So, books can only give you, where trading is concerned, a plank from where you have some basic academic knowledge. It's like swimming. You can read 5 books on how to swim, but unless you take your clothes off and dive into a pool, you'll never be a swimmer. So nothing can beat practical knowledge in a dynamic subject called trading. You have to fall at the feet of a doer of deeds and tell him or her to take you under his or her wings and learn.
Okay, so with this, we come to an end of this question and answer round. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, sir, for that edifying lecture. Your knowledge and understanding of even the smallest details about the security market and how it will change with certain factors in the near future were very captivating. We thank you so much for all your time and efforts for taking out time for this edifying lecture today. Thank you so much, sir.
So, as
Thank
we
you very
step
much.
upon this,
Thank you.
yes. So, sir, as we step upon this enthralling journey together, I urge you all to seize every opportunity to learn every chance you get and to make the most of this time in your lives. We are thrilled to have you all here today, and we are sure that you will make your loved ones proud.
So, as we step upon this enthralling journey together, I urge you all to seize every opportunity to learn every chance that you get and make the most of these times. We are so thrilled to have you here with us today, and we are sure that you will always make your loved ones proud. Also, once again, thank you so much, Mr. Vijay, for your time and efforts. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. See you again next time for another edifying lecture.
Thank you, sir.